Okay, let's dive right into this. Today we're unpacking a highly unique, provocative spiritual text recorded on January 13th, 2021, titled Zoroaster: How to Fight the Dark God of the Universe. Now, you should know up front this isn't your standard historical biography. It's actually presented as a channeled spiritual message that claims to reveal the hidden cosmic forces driving all the chaos in our modern world. Right off the bat, the premise sets a massive stage. According to the author Ryuho Okawa, we aren't just dealing with run-of-the-mill earthly politics or standard human conflicts. No, this book asserts that we are actively engaged in a massive, unseen cosmic battle against dark forces. It's a bold, highly controversial claim for sure, and our goal for this explainer is to objectively map out exactly how this text constructs its argument. To navigate all these complex claims, we've got a clear map. First, we'll look at the ultimate cosmic battle. Second, Ahriman's earthly interventions. Third, politics and spiritual warfare. And finally, the final spiritual message.
All right, starting with part one, the ultimate cosmic battle, or the ancient war of light and dark.
And this brilliantly illustrates the foundation of it all. To understand the book's claims about our modern world, we really have to look backward to ancient Zoroastrian dualism. So on one side, we have the forces of the light god, identified here as Ahura Mazda, who represents faith, human freedom, and spiritual elevation. Pitted against him is the dark god, Ahriman, whose entire domain is strict materialism, totalitarianism, and absolute control. The text essentially argues that every major human struggle is, at its core, a proxy war between these two exact forces. It's like a giant cosmic chess match. Now, you might be thinking of Zoroaster as just some ancient historical figure who lived thousands of years ago, right? Well, actually, scratch that. The text posits that the spirit of Zoroaster is an active, ongoing spiritual force that is literally continuing to battle this cosmic darkness today. In fact, he is framed as the channeled voice delivering these very modern warnings. The text makes a really interesting theological move here by unifying global religions. It explicitly identifies the light god, Ahura Mazda, with Elohim, the god of the Old Testament. By doing this, the author is attempting to unite totally different spiritual traditions into a single, unified front against ultimate cosmic evil. Moving on to Section 2, Ahriman's earthly interventions, focusing on the tactics of the dark god. So if this ancient war is real, how is it playing out on Earth right now? Honestly, that is the million-dollar question the text tries to answer. How does an ancient, dark, cosmic entity actually intervene in modern, everyday human affairs? Well, the crucial mechanism here is the concept of a walk-in. The text defines a walk-in as a spiritual possession, or the intense psychological influence of an earthly leader by a dark extraterrestrial or spiritual entity. The book uses this esoteric concept to explain those sudden extreme shifts toward authoritarianism or cruelty that we've seen in powerful human leaders throughout history. The text gets super specific about Ahriman's earthly tactics. It directly attributes the rise of major totalitarian regimes, like the Soviet Union or the Nazis, to this dark influence. It also claims that an over-reliance on science and technology is actually a deliberate tactic designed to replace faith in God. It even goes so far as to claim that dark forces are actively orchestrating extraterrestrial genetic hybridization just to erase our spiritual awareness entirely. The author structures these arguments by explicitly linking historical political movements to the cosmos. The text contrasts the ideals of democracy against the ideologies of the French Revolution and modern totalitarianism, basically framing them as direct physical manifestations of this unseen war between light and dark. Which brings us to Section 3, Politics and Spiritual Warfare, looking at modern events through a cosmic lens. Here's where it gets really relatable to our daily newsfeed. The text views everyday political discourse not just as regular human debate, but as literal spiritual warfare. Modern geopolitics, media narratives, and even contemporary environmental movements are seen as active battlegrounds for dominance over human consciousness. It's a total paradigm shift in how to read the news. It is absolutely fascinating to see how the book brings ancient theology crashing into modern times. The text analyzes contemporary figures like Donald Trump and climate activist Greta Thunberg, and incredibly, even integrates modern USO phenomena right into its theological framework, interpreting the whole thing through the lens of Zoroastrian dualism. Now, what's really interesting here is the book's assertion that mass media networks and public icons are particularly vulnerable to manipulation by these materialistic, dark entities.
The argument is that by controlling the media narrative and shaping public idols, these cosmic forces can steer humanity away from spiritual truths and push us deeper and deeper into material dependency.
Finally, let's look at Section 4, the final spiritual message, specifically focusing on Chapter 10, Confronting the Darkness. This brings us to Chapter 10, which is the climax of the book and actually finishes the recording of Zoroaster's spiritual message. The text culminates in a massive call to action. It argues that humanity is definitely not defenseless against these interventions. In fact, it claims that the mere act of revealing these hidden cosmic truths, basically bringing them into the light, is our primary weapon against the darkness. The whole shebang boils down to this emphatic quote: "Sharing these cosmic revelations is absolutely necessary to confront evil, protect human freedom, and defend faith." This isn't just an informational text. It genuinely positions itself as a literal tool for spiritual defense. So, practically speaking, how does humanity fight back in this framework? Well, it starts by recognizing that there is a spiritual reality driving material events. From there, you must actively reject totalitarianism and forced materialism, strongly defend faith and individual liberty, and ultimately spread this spiritual awareness to others to break the dark god's dominance. To put it simply, within the context of this book, ignorance is exactly what allows darkness to thrive, and cosmic awareness is what guarantees human freedom. By understanding the cosmic game being played out above us, humanity reclaims its free will down below. Whether you view this as literal truth or just fascinating fringe sociology, it really shows how people use the esoteric to make sense of a chaotic modern world. Which leaves us with a pretty massive question to ponder. If our earthly, political, and social struggles are truly the manifestations of an ancient cosmic war, is our ultimate defense entirely spiritual rather than physical? It's a completely mind-bending framework for viewing the chaos of the world today. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you on the next Explainer.